Hey guys and girls, it's Blackjack with 396 Guitars. We have the Spark-O-Matic back on the bench. I'm going to show you what we did as far as cleaning up the pickup covers. We had a lot of corrosion and basically tarnish builds up on it. It took a lot of elbow grease. Good customer, really nice guitar. He's a working musician and we want to make this thing right for him. Let's get to work. Remember, if you dig what I'm doing, like and subscribe. So you can see that I've started to tape off the fretboard because this is going to be the next war zone. This is where we were. You referred to the first video how corroded and tarnished the pickup covers were. They were in really bad shape, and if you look really closely at the, I hope the camera can pick up the green tarnish. That green tarnish is indicative of some sort of metal alloy that's in there, either brass and or copper, and it will turn green like that and get kind of tacky, sticky, and it doesn't make for a really good playing experience. The pickup covers were covered in it. Absolutely, it felt rough. Now they're nice and smooth, and the way we did that was, well, you can see the mess here, and this is only part of it. We take some really ultra fine wet dry sandpaper, and I did it dry, of course. I pulled out the pickup rings, pulled the pickups out, and got to it and I had to use, this is only about half of the number of little sandpaper pads that I used. And then I went after it with fret polish, which is what we're also going to use, obviously, on the frets. And then hopefully to take out some of the, ultra fine scratches in them, which you can never get out, and the pitting from the corrosion and tarnish has actually seeped into the metal, and you can't get all that out. But I put some, this is an ultra fine polish. It's ultra fine compound, and I even use that on clear coated bodies, and it's wonderful stuff, and now they're as smooth as a baby's ass. And you can tell that the pickup rings they're of a different ilk, because they polished and wiped right off with just a dry cloth, but I treated those as well, and hopefully we won't have a problem with that for many years to come. He's owned this guitar for many years, and it got really bad. Refer to video 1. We have moved on. You see, I started taping off the fretboard because normally I will just go after this with either fret erasers or a diamond, fine diamond pad, and to clean off and dress the frets, and then get after it with fret polish. But this time I'm going to tape off the whole board. I started this end, and this is 1/4 inch, and I'm going to move to 1/2 inch and then 1 inch. I think it's 1 inch. I don't know, maybe 1.5 inch for the bigger spacing frets. I'm not going to show you that entire tedious process, but it takes a few minutes, and I'm going to show you a couple of them down here. We're done with the 1/4 inch one. We're going to move on to the, I believe this is 1/2 inch. Jesus, Mary and Joseph. Yeah, this is 1/2 inch, so that's 1/4 inch. And then 1 inch. And you just go at it, and you try to get your tape as close to the edge of the fret. And what we're doing here is protecting the board, because I'm going to do the same 3-step process on the frets that I did on the pickup covers. And it's, first you sand it, then you polish it, then you put a little bit of fret polish, and then a little bit of guitar polish. And like I said, this is a little bit of a compound. And that black gray stuff, that's what comes up. That's the tarnish that you're actually removing out of the surface of the metal. So I digress. This is the most tedious part of working on a guitar. I thought I was done with the 1/4 inch, but I'm not. I'm going to put a bunch of these 1/2 inch ones and then go back with the 1/4 inch to get those little spaces. This is the same process if you're going to go if you're going to go through if you're going to do fret leveling. You have to protect the wood, the edge of the fretboard. Every surface you don't want anything abrasive to hit, you better cover it with this tape. And yeah, it's not fun, but this is what we do. And to get this job done right based on the customer complaint and concern, this is what we do. And it's tedious sometimes, but we have to protect it first before we can get to the work that needs to be done. So I'm only going to show you this last little bit, and then I'm going to pause. I'm going to tell you that elapsed time between the first video and the beginning of this video for just this part of the process was about 2.5 hours, just to clean up those pickup covers and get them to where, at least now, they look decent. And hopefully they'll last like that for a couple of years before they get all green and goopy again. Green means tarnish. You think it's mold, but it's not. It's tarnish. Anybody that's got silver rings, silverware, yeah, that brown green stuff that's on there is not mold. It's tarnish. And tarnish is some nasty stuff to try to remove. It's elbow grease. It's time consuming and it's elbow grease. Get after it. So I showed you just those few. I still have this section to do, and I'm not going to bore you with that. I'm going to tape it all off, and then I'm going to start working on these, and I'm going to show you a few of them, and then we'll come back. Okay, so stand by. So we're down to the last few frets here. We're up to the 1 inch, and the 1 inch will not fill these, so you want to make sure that you're all the way up to the fret. So you get a piece, you nail one side of it, get it right up to the edge of the fret, and you'll see there's a little piece of wood showing through there, and we're back to the 1/4 inch. Tedious, takes time, but this is what's going to get me to an end result that I'm going to be happy with to give back to my customer. And yeah, sometimes you got to do this. Normally in a regular setup, I would just go to, polishing these up and, send it back to them, and it would be good, but there's something going on here that needs a little more work, and that's okay. I'm good with that. I can do it. I don't mind doing it. You can think of other funner things to do, but this is what we have today. And anybody that's worked on guitars knows what I'm talking about. This is not the happiest day, and you got to do this. And this is another reason why I film everything, because some people don't realize. I'm going to tell you the total elapsed time in this entire taping off process just for the fretboard was about an hour, 45 minutes, give or take. And we haven't even started polishing yet. And as I said before, this all took, a couple of hours to take them out and clean them, sand them, polish them. On and on and on. You follow? So the first thing I'm going to do is, and this is going to be a little unsettling, and I know I'm going to get a million comments, a little emery pad. It's kind of a Scotch-Brite, and it's ultra fine. You could probably sand your fingernails with it, but this is going to take off the first chunk of that greenness off of there. And you don't notice it until you look at it and you see what's coming off. And I'm going to probably go through 4 or 5 of these just to get through the first pass, right? And you don't need to press down. And I don't want to have to chase my tail at the 4th process at the end of this to take out micro scratches here. That's why you want to use ultra fine Scotch-Brite. It's not really Scotch-Brite, but you know, you guys will have to deal with finding out and using different products what will work for you. I don't use this on every guitar. I won't, but this is a special case. You can see the difference already just in those 2 frets right there compared to these 2, right? That's just taking off the top surface of that gook, that green tarnish. And then we're going to go at it with actually the fine sandpaper after this, and then we're going to go after it with the polish. And yeah, it's going to be a 4 or 5 step process, but I'm going to do the entire fretboard with this first just to take off as much of the top surface of that stuff. And it's the same problem here. I tried to use chemicals, you know, naphtha, compound. The stuff just doesn't want to come off. This will take it off pretty quickly, but you got to be careful not to keep using that too much, because all you're doing is taking it from that one and putting it back on that one. And even though it looks nice and clean, you're still putting more material on there. So I'm going to get about 1/3 of the way and change, another 1/3, and then finish, and I'm going to get a new one. Now, sometimes I'll just use an even finer one than this, just to do, if I'm doing a setup for a guy and his frets are dirty, not tarnished like this, and sticky, like that's almost sticky, and the playing experience would be not pleasant. And already, just from doing that first step, these are smooth. So we're taking off all of that tarnish. But sometimes I'll use an even finer one, even finer Scotch-Brite, and just to kind of clean up the frets before I restring the guitar and oil the board. I'll do this, and then oil the board, and then clean everything up and restring it and do the setup. But this is going to be a little bit more involved. They're going to come out nice. They always do. Well, it came out nice the last time, but last time when I had it in here, I only did a restring and a setup for him. And, you know, I always clean up the guitar and everything, but what I used was, I used fret erasers. And usually that product is pretty good, but when you need to go a little bit further, you need to get slightly more aggressive. And when I say slightly more aggressive, be very careful. You don't want to get after stuff like this and really get aggressive. You don't want to hit this with sandpaper, you know. And just a light touch will take all of that goop off of there. It's still on there. Some of it is still on there. And that's where the other steps in the process. First this, then ultra light, ultra fine sandpaper, wet dry sandpaper. Same process, and then we're going to polish, and then we're going to coat it. So yeah, it's a lot. I'm going to pause there. I did about 1/4 of it. So, you know, you figure you got about that much more to go. 3/4 of it. The first step. And we'll come back and show you the next step, and so on. So stand by. So I wanted to show, I'm down to the last 3 frets here. And I wanted to try to get, that's a good shot right there. You can see the difference in these frets right here that I've cleaned. I'm going the wrong way. Yeah, right here. And there, when it turns, you can see that these are still tarnished and dirty. So you see the reason why that we tape everything off and do this process, because these are all clean and they're shiny. That's only the first step of the process. And again, a light touch. All you're doing is taking off that grime. And I went through 3 of these to get up to this point. Because once they get loaded up with all that tarnish, you want to get them off and get a new one. This is only the first step. Right? Yeah. They were pretty green. Very tarnished. We're going to get all that stuff off. We're going to make this guitar happy again. And we're going to make the owner happy again. And now you can see that they're all cleaned. Now, again, that's only the first step. That's only the first step. This one and the other 2, yeah, they got to go bye-bye because it's got that crap on it. That'll get transferred over and that tarnish will start to grow again at an accelerated rate. So we're going to leave the tape on. And get as much of that sandpaper off of there, the Scotch-Brite cover, whatever you want to call it. Get it off of there, and the next step is going to be, I'm not going to reuse this old stuff. That's from doing the pickup covers. We're going to get rid of it, and we're going to start fresh with, that's going to probably take every bit of that piece of sandpaper. Ultra fine. Use your finger. You don't need to put a block or anything on there. And you'll know when it's done. You're only going to get probably 4 or 5 frets out of each little piece like that. This is ultra fine. It doesn't take much to take the abrasive off of the sandpaper. And that's what we want. We want really ultra fine. And then you go at it. And again, a light touch. All you're doing now is polishing and taking off ultra fine scratches from the first step. And these are going to leave even more ultra fine scratches, but the eye will never see them. And we go at it. And as you use the center of the sandpaper, move over to the right side. You'll see that I'm moving back and forth on the sandpaper. And you'll know when you've used up that little piece of sandpaper, it will change the sound. It's not actually working anymore. It's the only way I could describe it. You can feel it in your fingertip too. And that's the next step. And once you get to this step now, because they're all clean, you got to remember where you were. You put your old piece there, grab your new piece. This is the next fret that we're going to work on. That one's done. Just that fast. That's how ultra fine this sandpaper is. Just your fingertip and a light touch. And when it stops feeling like it's actually cutting, move it over to the edge, one edge or the other. See, I just moved over to the right edge. I don't know if the mic is picking up on that, but yeah. And just about that fast, that piece of sandpaper, that little piece of sandpaper, is pretty much done. I could try to really get on the edge, but it doesn't give me any feel. I don't like to do that. Once it feels like it's done, it's done. A piece of sandpaper so you know where you were. I'm going to pause there, finish this process, and then we're going to come back and start polishing. So stand by. So, yeah, I took I was right, 4 pieces of sandpaper. And you know by the sound as you're lightly going across them that they get less and less effective. And this is why we tape it, because as you're using first the center, that little piece of sandpaper that's hanging off the edge is actually scraping against the board, and you don't want that. That's why we tape the whole thing off. It protects the wood, protects the board. So, yeah. And once again, we're going to just kind of push off any microscopic sandpaper cast off. And the next step is going to be to get after it with polish. And yeah, I'm still going to use that even though I have it taped. I really like to get down on the roundness of the fret with this polish. And it does, and that's why you use your finger, because as you push your finger down on there, it's getting everything from this surface and this surface all the way around the fret. And this tool helps facilitate that. But this is where you got to put some elbow grease into it, and you're going to watch my process. It's kind of comical. Start with the first one, dab it on there, and then yeah, see, that's tarnish coming off. Anybody who's worked with silver or brass and it gets discolored, that's what comes off, tarnish. That fret is done, and I'm going to eyeball it just to make sure that I'm happy with it, that this will be enough and we don't have to redo the whole process again. Oh yeah, that is just shining and standing tall. Yeah, and I can see when you look at it up close like that, with magnifiers on, you can see the difference between this fret and that fret because this one's polished now. Yeah, wow. Lots of work. Lots of work. And it doesn't end there, by the way, because you're going to go through about 1 million of these little guys, and you do each fret twice. And make sure that you're getting not only the top, but each side that you can feel with your fingernail. By the time you get done doing this, you'll never want to see another fret as long as you live. Right? I don't know if the camera will pick up on that, but you see how black that is and how much lighter that is. It's less. Now, conventional wisdom will tell you keep polishing until that gets almost indistinguishable, but I'm not going that far because I can tell you, yeah, I can even feel to the touch the difference. So guess what I have to do? I have to now do from there all the way to there, and I'm not going to bore you with that, but you see the process. I am not going to put that stuff on there. That's a little bit different because these were big, fat, flat surfaces, and I wanted to treat them a little bit. I got to now finish all of this, and then we'll get back to you. Stand by. So I'm going to show you the last two. Tedious stuff. Little fret polish right on the end of a clean part of the cloth, and put a little bit all across the fret that you're working on, and then get after it. And that's what comes off. Tarnish. You got one last to do. Get a clean part of the cloth. Is there a different way to do this? Yeah, there's a million different ways to do it. This is the way I do it. Tarnish. And it's very little coming off at this point. Then, once you do that, now the last section was here or so. You want to get a clean part of a dry cloth and just go at it. It's just regular paper towel. All you're doing is taking off the last little bit of fret polish. And the last little bit of tarnish will come off. So, yeah, just to show you the whole process. Yeah, wow. You just got to get at it. It's all over my fingers. Yeah, there. Yeah. And there's no other way to do it. There's no shortcut. There's no magic way to do it. You just got to get at it. A little fret polish, a little elbow grease, a little sandpaper. Make sure you're using the right stuff. They feel nice. They look nice now. I mean, they're just really, really clean. And not only that, polished, and there isn't a scratch in any of them. It's almost like they're brand new again. And I know the camera's going to pick up on just how pretty they look. You know, we didn't do a, you know, this is a real fret dressing. I mean, that's how much work goes into it. You know, when I'm doing a regular restring and a full setup, I'm going to polish the top set of frets. I'm going to go after them with a little bit of fret eraser. But if you really want to make them stand tall, this is what you want. And they went from being tacky and green and tarnished to absolutely as smooth as a newborn baby's butt. We got to restring it. I got to get in there and figure out which ways to lock this, because I finally got it hanging tall, but I got to do a restring and a setup on this thing now. And of course, we got to pull all this off and then clean the fretboard, anything that seeped past, because we're so aggressive in the way we wipe and polishing the frets. Some of it goes past the tape, and then we have to clean that up and prep the board again before we can move on to cleanup of the entire guitar and restringing and setup. So I hope this was helpful, and I hope that now you can understand what goes into a real fret dressing job. And in this particular instance, it was not only fret dressing, but it was getting after tarnished green nastiness on the pickup covers. So yeah, it's Blackjack with 396 guitars. Let's get to it. We'll talk soon.